Stanford University.
Stanford University held its
Harvard versus Stanford. Stanford University.
Oh, Zepto, that is so famous in India.
Right.
So you know them.
Of course, and these students who are international have more difficulty finding internships.
Even at Stanford.
Even at Stanford.
High net worth individuals and students like Phoebe Gates.
Yeah, so my experience was very difficult, I would say. I got rejected from most.
Now the big question, how can a student currently get into Stanford?
Undergrad.
So hello everyone, today I am with Jad, who is a Stanford student, and today he's going to share the reality of studying at Stanford as an international student. So hi Jad, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Jad. I'm an international student from Greece. I came to study for my undergrad at Stanford in electrical engineering, and now I'm also doing my master's at the same time, so I'll be graduating next year.
Very nice. So let's talk about the reality of job market for you as an international student in Stanford, because currently in the whole US, like, you know, there are less jobs, plus the interest rates are high. Currently, just Federal Institute released that the interest rates will not go down till the end of the year. So that the chances are this tech recession will last the whole year. You will not have jobs. So what is the case at Stanford currently for it?
So I can talk about Stanford, and I can also talk about my experience as an international student. So at Stanford, while we do have a lot of proximity to tech companies like Facebook or Meta, Google, Microsoft, all of those, it's very, very possible to get a job in software engineering usually in those companies in regular times. Right now, sure, it's a bit more tough, but it's still possible if you find the right recruiters, if you find yourself in the right situation. But Stanford doesn't have such a strong focus on having students go and do software engineering. Even though a lot of students study CS, I would say many people go on to become aspiring product managers, engineers at startups, and even entrepreneurs. Many people want to go and build their own thing. That's just the part of the culture at Stanford.
Wow.
So that's, especially given now that many companies are not hiring, a lot of Stanford students are gravitating more towards working at startups or building their own thing, because there's no better time to do that.
Talking about startups at Stanford, how many people around you see have Y Combinator application approved or gotten like a high funding for their startup? So can you talk about YCs?
I mean, YC, it's funny because I know, like, there are so many people that I know somewhat either personally or just through classes or through, interviews, that I later see their name being mentioned in like the YC list. I'm like, oh wow, this is very interesting, but it's not surprising. I know a handful of people personally who have gone on to become YC founders, received funding. It's also very common to receive funding from typical venture capital firms from Stanford. It's not too hard. You can just put up, some slides together. You can show your prototype. Given that you're a Stanford student, they'll be very, very likely to give you some funding. So whether it's at YC or at a traditional VC firm, it's possible.
You can easily get funding. Wow.
Quite easily, I would say. Yeah.
Wow.
Compared to some other places, yeah, you would be surprised to see not just that, but the valuations at which these startups receive funding. Yeah, you will see, simple ideas get several $1 million of valuation just from their seed round.
Wow. So can you tell me the highest funded startup like just as per the amount from Stanford?
Okay, so this might be relevant to your audience, but there are two founders who never actually ended up joining Stanford, even though they were admitted. They dropped out quite soon, and they went on to found Zepto.
Oh, Zepto, that is so famous in India.
Right.
So you know them?
Of course. They're India's biggest unicorn now.
Yes.
And newest unicorn.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that people who are my age and going to Stanford are now going on to build a startup that is so highly valued and so, impactful in India. So, of course, that's the biggest one I can think of right now. Everyone knows that they want to build something very valuable.
Highest evaluation, like, is it $1 billion, 100 million? Highest evaluation,
I would say that's the company I know with the highest valuation. I think
100 million.
Is it 100 million?
I think
they've reached unicorn status. I think they've gotten
1 billion.
Yeah, they've reached $1 billion in valuation, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. And what's the second highest?
The second highest, I would say maybe $50 million in valuation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible the amount of, valuations you'll see. in the Stanford ecosystem in the Bay Area.
And for the resources, Common App application, your essays, letters of recommendation, all the templates available on flywithsync.com. Do not forget to check them out. Once you're here in the US, don't forget to refinance a loan if it is in US dollars with SoFi Bank, because it allows you to refinance and cut down your interest rate from 13-14% to 7%. And even on student visa, many people on Reddit, they posted that they were able to refinance. Now, the big question.
I have the big question though.
Now, after completing your undergrad, you're going for a master's degree. What are the reasons? Is it because of the job market, or is it just because you like Stanford?
So my first year of Stanford was done remotely because of COVID. So my undergrad was cut short, and many of my friends and I felt like we missed out on a lot of the Stanford experience. And so many of us decided to stay for an extra year just to enjoy what Stanford has to offer. There's so much it has to offer, like between, you know, the ecosystem it's in, the professors, the research, the opportunities, like to speak to different people of all fields and all interests, the music, the speeches. There's so much happening at Stanford that I would want to stay forever if I could. But I think the master's is a great way to spend an extra year and to justify it. So that's the primary reason I'm staying for an extra year.
Yeah, because like, you know, you told me the community at Stanford is so amazing. You have, first of all, the equal sex ratio, 50-50, unlike Silicon Valley.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and like because San Jose, it's considered man Jose, unfortunately, but Stanford has the best community, it has the best diversity, so you don't feel like leaving as compared to Silicon Valley in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but my question particularly here is, in your friend group at Stanford, you appraised about, what are like, you know, the highest net worth individuals you have seen? Like, can you tell me, have you seen billionaires? You don't need to name. If you feel comfortable, you can take the names. But have you seen billionaires here? And like, what do you think about them? Do you think like there is a lot of disparity in wealth Stanford shows? Like, you know, some students are like not from wealthy economic backgrounds and some from like really high net worth.
So Stanford's diversity comes in all shapes and forms. So it's not just racial and social, it's also economic. So of course you'll have a lot of students who come in on a full ride, full scholarship, and they are probably as well integrated into Stanford's community, and they have just as much of a sense of belonging, I hope to think, as much as the wealthier people at Stanford. Again, this is just from what I've heard. This is not something I can fully attest to because I have never experienced both sides. There are a lot of high net worth individuals at Stanford, of course. It's where, you know, it's a very highly curated environment, and you'll have children of, you know, tech entrepreneurs and politicians. They all come to study at places like Stanford. So of course you'll see them, but very frankly, they are well mixed between all the other students. Like, you'll just see them at the library, you'll see them at the party. They're just like any other student, and I like that we treat them this way. There's no reason for them to be treated any differently or for them to be perceived any differently because, you know, they're students like us at the end of the day. We all have the same opportunities and capabilities once we're all at Stanford, you know? So that's about, yeah.
Based on what you said, I can assume that high net worth individuals and students like Phoebe Gates, who is the daughter of Bill Gates, billionaire, or maybe Eve Jobs, who is the daughter of Steve Jobs, who went there, they were treated the same way like any other student. They didn't have any security around them. They were just like normal people.
I've never seen security around them. They live in dorms the same way as other people do.
Wow.
Yeah, and they take the same classes as everyone else, you know?
That is amazing. So the quality and the diversity is just commendable here. Now, can you tell me, in terms of Stanford, like, since the tech job scene is not good, do you think that, like, if someone wants to come just for a high-tech job salary, who doesn't want to do a startup, is Stanford not the place at all for them? Like some student from India who just wants to, or an international student who just wants to get like a 400K, 300K high-paid salary, is Stanford not for them?
I still think it definitely is for them. Given the sheer proximity to all these tech companies, I think it is very possible. The reason I mentioned that it's not the most popular option among Stanford students is because there's also an entrepreneurial spirit around us. But if you want to go into software engineering, make 300, 400K, of course, you can become a master's in CS or a master's in electrical engineering or a PhD. Look for all these companies that are around you, try to get a job. It's very doable. Right now, I'm not sure how doable it is just because of the job market, but typically, Stanford is the best place to be. I mean, you're breathing the air of all those tech companies. Of course, it's the best place.
So does that mean, like, when you, let's say, want to email any big tech company, even in first year, do you have an example of emailing or applying to a big tech company from your first year? Did you get a reply immediately? Like, was it difficult for you to, get close to or in the network of any big tech companies? Any example you have?
Yeah, so my experience was very difficult, I would say. I got rejected from most of my jobs in tech in my first year. As many students
interviewed, right?
But I only received one interview when I in my first year, and that was very lucky because a lot of those tech companies will usually reach out to Stanford's mailing lists, and they'll tell them about an event that's happening on campus. Like, oh, for example, Meta's hosting an event on campus. Come talk to the recruiters. This will happen very often, and then once you get connected to a recruiter, either through the event or by reaching out, they will usually reply. Sometimes they'll reply, but when you're at the event, they're more likely to remember you, follow up the conversation, and then give you an interview. So it's usually a lot of the recruiters or the people who work in those tech companies that will come to Stanford to look for those students. Usually for first year, it's a bit difficult because they don't have as much experience, but they do have special programs for first year students and undergrad if they're looking to become, interns at their company.
Oh, so from big tech point of view, first of all, you guys are any other student. If you have the right skills, you will get interviewed, but your chances to getting interviewed are higher if you are from the special Stanford event of a big tech company.
It's easier to get noticed if you attend such an event. Which is why a lot of students always come there, and sometimes they'll have their resumes handy so that they can give them to the recruiters just for them to remember. And we also have a lot of career fairs, which is also a place where students get jobs. Sometimes I've even received a job offer just by going to a career fair and like talking to a recruiter. It's possible. That's how it works sometimes.
I get it. Now, there's a reason why UC Berkeley is a bigger feeder school for Google, Meta, as compared to Stanford.
Perhaps.
First of all, because like it is first of all considered to be having the students who have the job mindset. Plus, they have a bigger number of students. So, what are the differences you think is like between UC Berkeley and Stanford that more people go to like tech industry after UC Berkeley as compared to Stanford?
I think at Stanford, we're exposed to a lot more than just the companies that are around us. I think the fact that Stanford has so many entrepreneurs that have come out of our university, probably the highest number of unicorn founders and all that, they've all come out of Stanford. I think it's trickled down to our education as well. Our education, like when our engineering classes, they will always integrate an element of entrepreneurship, and they will open your eyes to the bigger picture, and they will not like try to restrict you to looking for jobs. They will usually, in some way, whether directly or indirectly, encourage you to explore building your own thing or working at a startup. That's part of the culture that Stanford has, which I think UC Berkeley doesn't have around it too much because there haven't been as many founders historically coming out of Berkeley.
Got it.
I think at Stanford, we're exposed to a lot more than just the companies that are around us. I think the fact that Stanford has so many entrepreneurs that have come out of our university, probably the highest number of unicorn founders and all that, they've all come out of Stanford. I think it's trickled down to our education as well. Our education, like when our engineering classes, they will always integrate an element of entrepreneurship, and they will open your eyes to the bigger picture, and they will not like try to restrict you to looking for jobs. They will usually, in some way, whether directly or indirectly, encourage you to explore building your own thing or working at a startup. That's part of the culture that Stanford has, which I think UC Berkeley doesn't have around it too much because there haven't been as many founders historically coming out of Berkeley.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Now the big question, how can a student currently get into
Especially
Stanford?
for undergrad.
Especially,
Like,
yeah.
awesome.
Exactly. And you got in as an undergrad and you're doing masters, and like it's for masters it's easier. For undergrad it's extremely difficult. So how you think currently, especially the new Gen Zs coming to Stanford who want to come, can get in? You first of all got in as a Gen Z. You know, let's talk about your application. What you had unique in your profile?
I mean, one thing I'll point out just from the start is the fact that masters is easier in the sense that it's clear what they're looking for in terms of an applicant.
Yes.
So they're clear in terms of they want someone to have the best grades from this institution, to have like solid research experience or solid internships.
With experience, work experience.
Work experience and all
yeah.
that. For undergrad, it's a lot more random and holistic, I would say. And there's a lot of luck involved.
Yeah.
Everyone admits there's a lot of luck involved. Even the admissions committee, they will often say, sometimes you've had a good day, and they'll read your application and admit you, but sometimes it won't be the same case. Me personally, I would say it's always difficult to know how I got in. You never know for sure how you get in. Even after you read your admission committee's like application file, like you're able, once you're a Stanford student, you're able to go and read the file that the admissions committee wrote about you, and you know their thought process on why they should or shouldn't admit you. Even after that, it's still unclear. Like in my case, I think they liked my intellectual curiosity, my reflection on my identity and my background. My grades, of course, were something. I took a very rigorous workload in university, in high school. I took as many classes as I could that were difficult. I took 4 higher levels in the IB. I tried to do a lot of research experience, Olympiads, and I tried to immerse myself a lot in science, which was my field of interest at the time.
I see.
So as long as you try to chase as many opportunities as a high school student as you can, not just like from what exists, but even creating your own opportunities, like building your own thing, building your own app, and trying to make an impact through it, this will resonate with the admissions committee that you are someone who's passionate and someone who's going to contribute to the university.
So basically they want actually like a first-year Stanford student be in high school. So they want a student with high grades, good research profile in high school, or maybe a potential startup in high school. Basically that's what they want, right?
Not necessarily a startup, but they want someone who's, of course, the grades, everyone's going to apply with good grades. So that's not going to differentiate you anymore. Workload, a lot of people are getting, they're going to be taking the most rigorous workloads. So that's not even a differentiating factor anymore. So yeah, of course, I would say what you do outside of class is probably what's going to, separate you from the rest. So they want someone who's either they want someone who is clearly passionate about something, and like it doesn't have to be one specific thing. It can be just a purpose or a bigger belief in general, and then acts upon it in a way that can become impactful. So if someone, let's say, is interested in bringing equality in education to others, they might go and start a nonprofit, an education that helps low income gain access to opportunities that they wouldn't get otherwise, so that they can learn material that's more advanced than what they're able to learn in their public high school. I don't know. That's just an idea.
Got it. So the idea is do as much outside class things you can, because otherwise you cannot tell, there is no fixed thing you can tell a student that do this and get this. It's a lot of luck. You just have to keep doing things outside class.
Exactly.
Would you say those things have to be more close to your major, more close to computer science, EE, or it has to be anything you enjoy? How would you define? Because every university has a different criteria on that.
So I would say for Stanford, usually it's easier to do something that relates to your field of interest, just because it's easier to demonstrate your passion for it and your interest for it and why you even started that project in the first place. But Stanford's also a place where they usually expect you to change your major once you actually enter. So most students end up with a different major than what they thought they would when they first joined.
Oh.
And that's because Stanford has a very holistic education where they try to expose you to as many disciplines as possible. So I think that if you are, let's say, a prospective computer science major, but you're very interested in music and try to pursue as many things in music as possible, that's perfectly fine, because that shows that you are not just you're not one-dimensional. There's different facets to you. You are able to think more critically. You're able to enjoy different things. You have a bigger personality and their substance to you. So I think that's all the better to go and do that music project.
So do what you enjoy.
Do what you enjoy. Absolutely. You should never do something for the sake of university. You should do things that you enjoy for yourself. And then, of course, if you're able to push yourself to make an impact for what you're doing, then that's going to resonate with the university a lot.
Amazing. Awesome, Jad. Thank you so much for your insights about Stanford.
course.
It was wonderful talking to you. Any last final best thing about Stanford you want to share? And then we can wrap it up.
The best thing about Stanford, I would say...
I know that now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're tired. I know that.
No, that's all right.
Uh-huh.
The best thing about Stanford, the people, I would say you're surrounded by some of the most interesting, smart, driven people, not just students, but faculty as well. And they're always there to help you in anything, whether it's coursework or just talking about your career or talking about research opportunities. They're always there to support you and always happy to talk. And you'll never come across this anywhere else, I think. So that's why I'm saying an extra year. It's part of the Stanford charm. So
I mean,
if you come here, that's what you'll experience, I hope.
amazing. Thank you so much, Jad, again. It was very nice talking to you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I can see, you cannot. So you may not have met them.
Bro, you just came out because
Again, it's no surprise. Cause we know better than to the darkness, all the darkness, darkness.